Been tuning. Been tunes.
Oh my gosh, I thought that music was coming from me. I was cynically quitting all of my tabs and I was like, what song is this?
I surprised Jake with theme tunes for the
I wish
competition.
you'd told me.
Sorry about that, I didn't warn you.
Oh, that's so funny. I came on looking dead serious. Right.
Panic.
Now I know it's not me playing a little tune. I actually really enjoyed it. Hello, everyone. I hope you all enjoyed Dave's little jingle. So you may notice that Dave, who is usually our wonderful guest, is here tonight as a host because Jake is on best man duties. So good luck to him. So you've got Dave and I hosting for tonight, which I can't wait.
It's been lovely to see you. It's been a while since I've been on Pour and Sip, that's for sure. So it's lovely to see you all again in the studio, sort of thing. I do catch you in on some of the catch-ups late sometimes when I'm going through the box. I love the new box. I see a couple of comments coming through about the new box. It's the first time I've seen the new box. Yeah.
Well, this month was different to usual, I think. I don't know if they're like trying some new stuff out. Jake would know that, but unfortunately, he's not here. But yeah, the packaging was like secure and fancy, which is what we need for our drams. Who have we got tuning in? We've got Steve Corn Williams, Claire M, Peter Gilmore. We've got people. Steve Corn Williams saying we get intro music now. Good evening, fellow sippers, from David Woolcock. Richard Ringgrove, good thing it's not sunny this evening, or I've had a hard choice to make. It is actually sunny where I am, but I think it's going to make it nice for the kind of fruity selection of whiskies we've got coming up. So yeah, hello to everyone. If you're new here, get involved, get on the chat, ask questions. Like, that's what we're here for. That's what our guests are here for. So yeah, I think people are asking for the running order. So I will tell you. First up, we've got Dave interviewing himself for that Boutique-y Whisky Company Canadian corn 6-year-old. Then we're going to move on to the Scapa 10-year-old with UK ambassador Josh Evans, and then finishing up with the Deanston 15-year-old tequila cask with ambassador Declan. And Declan will also help us cover the Tobermory as one of the quick drams, the Tobermory 21-year-old, which will be really fun. So we kind of got like a double bill for that one.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dave, I've just rambled on for a really long time.
No, that's exactly exactly what you're meant to do. That's exactly how it's supposed to run. I'm the guest, remember?
No, that means I'm not meant to ramble at all because you know everything there is to know.
Aye. Do we do where the emergency exits are and everything? Do we fire alarm? I can't remember. It's a long time.
If only we had a real studio where that was necessary. But yeah, I reckon let's have some whiskey.
Have some whiskey. Yeah, there's a cracking little box. This is. I was just looking at the lineup and thinking, what a steal this is for the price. We're going to start with the Canadian corn whisky, which is a boutique-y new. I mean, the first time I'd taken it out was last night. Actually, I was hosting a tasting in London, and that was my first dram of the evening. Yeah, that's start with the breakfast whiskey last night. So it's the first time I tasted it last night. So that's what we've got, the Canadian 6-year-old. It's part of our core range, that the Boutique-y Whisky core range that we introduced a few years ago. But sadly, it used to be an 8-year-old, but then being an independent bottler and introducing a core range is not quite as easy as you think, especially when forecasts suddenly surpass themselves and you get a huge order in from a country that you didn't expect to have a huge order, and they wipe out all of your stock. And so we've had to make a few adjustments. There will be an 8-year-old coming back. However, in the meantime, the 6-year-old has been introduced just this week. I think it went live just this week. Yes, on the site. So
this was almost on its way to people before it had even been put live, which is pretty cool.
Yes, yeah. I think I got my bottles for the tasting. It hadn't gone live on Master of Malt when my bottles came in on Saturday. That's when I got my bottle Saturday. So not that long ago. It is very new. However, it's exactly the same as our 8-year-old in terms of it's a Canadian corn whisky. It's been finished in new Oloroso sherry casks, and to be honest, it tastes very, very similar, almost identical. Some of the early ones were, I don't know, we had a some of the early batches, we had a dirtier warehouse. We had a really rank, damp warehouse that really did give a completely different flavour. However, that's been closed down due to health and safety grounds, I believe. It was just so musty. But this one is really light and fresh, and it really is a beautiful grain whiskey. And we love corn whiskey, and most grain distillers in Scotland started switching to wheat in the 80s, whereas the pre-80s grain whiskey was always using maize. So I think Girvan were the first to switch in mid-80s, switch over to wheat, and it is a different mouthfeel, and we just love that big corny oiliness that comes through when you distill maize. It's got that oiliness. The finish is a little bit longer. The mouthfeel is slightly different, but wheat just sort of falls away very, very quickly and then leads you wanting more and more. So there's very few distilleries that use. North British uses a lot of maize still. But when it comes to corn, the Canadians have been using corn for a long time in their distilling. And the other great corn distiller is South Africa with their Baines, and they do that corn grain whiskey, which is the same sort of thing as this, really, but not with the sherry.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know how many people know much about Canadian whiskey, but it's a fascinating history. It was the Europeans that took rye to Canada, and it was the British that started distilling in Canada. So some of the earliest distilling families were all British. And I was just reading, there's a brilliant book, if anyone's really geeky and interesting, it's called Canadian Whiskey, written by Davin de Kergamo. This is the new one, the new edition. I think this is the 3rd edition. So the earliest edition that I had, there were 9 distilleries in Canada at that time. Now there's over 300. So Wow. It's just at the craft boom that was about to start to. But there's some interesting facts that some of the legislation that we see in whiskey today was introduced in Canada before everything else. So in 1883, the Bottled in Bond Act came in to Canada. It was more about, rather than that mark of quality that the Americans brought in, I think they brought that in 1897, that Bottled in Bond, which is 4 years, 1 season mark of quality. It was more about paying the tax once you sell it rather than once you bottle it, like we have today, where we go into duty bonded warehouses, so you don't pay the duty until after. It's a way of collecting tax. And in 1885, Canada were the first to introduce a 3-year rule. So that's pretty cool. They're aging, although they've been aging. I think I was reading the Wisest Distillery, Walker Distillery, Hiram Walker Distillery. Walker started aging in the 1860s and started really sort of producing aged whiskey from 1880. So he was one of the forerunners of bringing in this sort of mark of quality because they had lots of aged stock.
Okay. When you say Canada was the first, do you mean sort of like in the world?
yeah, to introduce aged whiskey. Yeah, the aging law in Britain, in the UK, Scotland, was the 1915 Immature Spirits Act. That's when the 3-year rule came in. It was then in 1915, so that's quite a few years before that. They were way ahead of the curve. Yeah,
I feel like we'll get onto this particular spirit in a second, but I mean, it's like you were talking about like the craft boom in Canada and distilling and going up to like 300 or so distilleries. But I still feel like Canadian whiskey is a bit like underrated and undersung, and I kind of wonder why.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess we're not their biggest market here, really, are we? I think that's probably their closest market was obviously the USA, and that's where most of their whiskey went to. Certainly after Prohibition or during Prohibition, they stepped in. A lot of the whiskey runners were coming in from Canada, and there was Canadian distilleries built right along the border there, so they could just slip it across. It was nice and easy. So yeah, we don't get an awful lot of great Canadian whiskey over here, but it's starting to happen. It's starting to come.
Okay, I mean, this being a great example, you can't obviously tell us the distillery this is from.
No, I can't. I can't tell you where it comes from, but it has 5% rye malt content. Someone's asked a question about enzymes, and yeah, there's a malted rye in there that brings in the enzymes to turn those starches in the corn into sugars. Yes.
I see. Okay, that makes sense. I think we might have had a slight typo on the card, which said it was 100% corn.
Right.
That would be crazy.
No, I believe it's 5% rye malt. Okay. That's what I have on my card.
And corrected. But also Oloroso sherry casks and corn whiskey don't feel like a particularly typical pairing.
No, no, you don't see an awful lot of corn whiskey. Period. Most grain whiskey these days is the backbone of the Scotch whiskey industry. But yeah, even when you look at corn whiskey in America, which is bourbon, if it's in most of that doesn't go into sherry. Very little of it's finished in sherry casks. No, again, it's not something, I guess, that's their palate is the sherry. Like, it was the British that really built the sherry empire over in Jerez as well. So it's British families who were importing the sherry. We were the biggest, or UK was the biggest importer of sherry back in the day.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you called it a breakfast whiskey at the beginning, and it is this is really maple syrup.
Yeah.
To me, really toasty and delicious. It's really nice. We've got people saying it's dangerously drinkable from Claire M. Something of a Highland toffee chew note. Agree.
Dangerously gluggable is what I don't tend to say. Yeah, well, I mean, I call it a breakfast whiskey. I don't have it for breakfast. I just wanted to make that clear.
No.
I took it breakfast whiskey is because it's a whiskey that you start a tasting with. It's sort of not challenging. It's just a drinking whiskey. We put it together to introduce great Canadian whiskey to other markets, but also because we like drinking it. But it's Dr. Whiskey, who is Canadian. Mm-hmm. Can't get good Canadian whiskey over here. I mean, it is coming. We are getting Canadian whiskey over here now. But yes.
Was this one for him then?
Yeah, someone just mentioned Signal Hill. Yes, it's very, very similar, that big corn whiskey. But I was trying some Signal Hill the other day. And yeah, it's very, very similar, but not quite the big fruitiness that the sherry comes through with these new Oloroso casks that we're using.
Mm-hmm. And how long was it in Oloroso casks for? Can you tell us?
At least 3 months.
Okay.
At least 3 months. At least 3 months. That's a minimum. Some of it will be in longer. We're trying to rapidly get back up to 8-year-old as fast as possible now. But yet we have stuff laid down that we bottled the first at 6-year-old. Hopefully by the beginning of next year, we should be back up to the 8-year-old.
Okay, that's not.
Yeah.
Not long, maybe. I also wanted to talk about just sort of boutique-y whiskey in general, because obviously you were saying this only launched this week. And so what can we sort of expect from the core range? Because obviously, starting with a 6-year-old Canadian corn whiskey that's finished in Oloroso casks, it's a core range sort of suggests it's some not middle of the road, but sort of entry point things.
No, there's some pretty challenging stuff in there, to be honest. The core range launched 3 years ago, this year I think it was, with 4 Scotch whiskies and 1 Canadian as the world whiskey. So that's where we started with we had an 8-year-old Isla that had been finished in refill bourbon. We've got we had a 12-year-old Speyside, which was all in new Oloroso sherry cask. We had an 18-year-old peated Highland, which is finished in 2 sherries, Pedro Jimenez and New Oloroso and Firstville Bourbon. So 3 different types of casks coming together to make that marriage, which is just fantastic. A really complex 18-year-old Highland peated malt. And then we have the blended grain 30-year-old. So all of these retail at under £90. The Highland peated was the most expensive in the set at £90. 30-year-old grain was like 75, I think £70 retail. Last year, just over a year ago, almost exactly, we introduced 3 more world whiskies to our core selection. So our core selection consists of 8 whiskies now. We introduced a 10-year-old bourbon, an American whiskey with the bison rather than the moose on the label, an English whiskey, an English rye whiskey with the English longhorn cattle on the label in glorious Coleman's mustard yellow, and then a fabulous 21-year-old Irish whiskey, which is in shamrock green. So now the core range consists of 8 whiskies. I mentioned earlier when we lost the 8-year-old Canadian because of big orders coming in from a market that we didn't expect. We've actually shipped this Canadian back to Canada. We have Canadian customers who buy it, which we didn't expect at all. We had some, Islay whiskies disappeared pretty quick, so we lost our 8-year-old Islay supply. We're building it back up. We will have 8-year-old Islay, so we had to take the age statement off of Islay a little while ago. So the current Islay is a no age statement, and the Speyside, we ran out of 12-year-old Speyside, and we've got a 10-year-old Speyside, but again, we're hoping to have that. I mean, it's really difficult when you don't make whiskey.
Yeah.
And you're just relying on a pipeline, and when that pipeline gets stopped or gets diverted somewhere else, or a big order comes in, it's hard to fight. This is new to us, but it's starting to work.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good problem to have, not being able to keep your stock in your warehouse.
No, it's a good problem to have, and it's a good problem to have that we can turn it around. And I mean, the 10-year-old Speyside that I took out last night, I prefer it to the 12-year-old. I think it's a little bit more elegant and a little bit more complex, personally. The 18-year-old, we've got plenty of that. And that's managed to, although that's going to start getting older as well. But we're still doing the limited editions. So we released a limited edition series of just 5 whiskies a couple of weeks ago, which are all single casks, and we're working on another set of limited editions for a little bit later this year. So the labels are being designed at the moment. So these will be based on the original labels that we're just exploding a little bit to suit with the core range, and they'll all be 70 CLs as well.
Okay, very nice. Because previously a lot of the releases were 500 ml, right?
Yeah, everything before we introduced our first LE at the beginning of the year before last, 24. That was the first 70 CL batch that we ever did. We haven't gone back to a half-litre bottle at the moment.
More is more. Has it nearly been 15 years of that Boutique-y Whisky Company now?
It'll be 14 years this year.
Nice.
We were 13 in September last year, so we'll be 14 this year in September. Yes.
Okay, that's fun. I mean, sort of, what's changed and what's not changed for Boutique-y in that time?
Oh, crikey, lots of things have changed. We tell you if it's a single cask now, which we never did. It was never important to us whether it was a single cask. I mean, when I first joined, we first started putting age statements on. So we never even had an age statement on it. It was never important. And it was never important whether it was cask strength or not. Some of it was, some of it wasn't. It is where we felt it drank best. And then people were asking for cask strength whiskey. And so we'd release it, and we labeled it that it was cask strength. And we did a whole series of American whiskies. I think they were the baseball series was all natural cask strength. So yeah, it's not always the best for whiskey releasing a cask strength. Some of it works, some of it doesn't, and we always wanted to have that control, but we don't always these days. But certainly with the core range, we bottled them all at almost 46%. We could have gone 46, but 45.8 just gives us another little point to tell a story. because 45.8% ABV is the old 80 proof, the old gunpowder 80 proof, the British proof, not the imperial proof rather than the US proof, and it's what all whiskies, certainly most Scotch whiskies, were bottled up in the 50s and 60s, 70s before we switched to metric ABV series. So that's one story, and the other story is we don't have a chill filtration system, and 46% is best for non-chill filtered whiskies, and 0.2, no one will know.
Well, they won't if you don't tell them.
Well, you don't have chill. None of our whiskies are chill filtered or naturally coloured. They're all naturally coloured as cask colour. Yeah.
And actually, for I guess it'll be the cask, but sort of like for a grain whiskey, this actually is, you can't really judge a whiskey by its colour, but yeah, as a grain whiskey goes, this is fairly amber, I'd say.
It's a lovely colour, yeah. I mean, you consider that when this comes in, it's a light white wine sort of thing. It's refill hoggies like most stuff goes into. Yeah.
We've got Jester saying my favourite boutique was the 5-year-old Dutch one quite a few years ago. Sadly, the bottle leaked, but that's my excuse for it disappearing so quick.
Oh, a Dutch one, a whiskey. The only Dutch distillery we bottled would be the Millstone, and we've both done some single malt and rye from 4-year-old to 25-year-old. I think 25-year-old was the big birthday one that we did.
Nice.
That was mature. Yes, one of the best distilleries certainly one of the best rye makers in Europe. Millstone.
Yeah, I think I've definitely tried that one. We've also got some people mentioning a kind of like a menthol note in this whiskey, and kind of where does that come from?
Oh, I don't know about that. I'm not getting any menthol. I must have.
Is that common for a corn whiskey?
Menthol notes? No, I don't know about menthol. No.
That's a particular olfactory we're dealing with.
You can't be wrong. I mean, if that's what it reminds you of, that's what tasting notes are so subjective and so personal. If that's what it reminds you of, that's what it reminds you of. You can't be wrong. There are no stupid questions and there are no stupid tasting notes. It's a simple. This is all maple syrup and pastries and yeah. That sherry note definitely comes through when you're sitting there nosing it. That sort of Oloroso sherry starting to come through, that dry nuttiness with those fruitiness coming across there. Dried nuts, like the skins of the nuts coming across there as I sit there evolving in the glass. But it's not meant to be a complex whiskey. It's just meant to be,
pluggable.
Highballed, lowballed, splash of ginger in it, drink it how you want to. Yeah.
This feels like, because it's got the corn, but it's also got the sherry, it could span sort of all forms of classic cocktails from either Scotch or American whiskey, and you could just adapt to them all.
I'm sure you could, yeah. I'm not much of a cocktail maker. My favorite whiskey cocktail is a half and a half. And with two Glaswegians on the line later, I'm sure they'll understand. A beer and a whiskey together just works in perfect harmony.
No, I think this would be a good, maybe with, you know what, now people have mentioned menthol, I'm thinking like a ton of mint in a highball with this would just balance all of that sweetness out really nicely.
The highball with mint and soda, and yes, that could work. I did that with the bourbon a little while ago. Yeah.
I mean, not revolutionary for whiskey and mint, but I'm thinking about it. We've also got some people in the chat talking about buying bottle. I should have said at the beginning, obviously we have the member store where you all get discounts on full bottles of all of the drams we're trying tonight. And this one is a good one to shout out because it is just under £32, which is a steal.
That is a steal, yes. Yeah, that is a steal.
Right, have we got any more tasting notes? We've got, I feel like now we've got Dutch whiskey on the mind. We've got Real Boinker saying that the palate reminds them of Dutch toffee waffles. I can't say I've had those, but...
Stroop waffles. Yeah, stroop waffles, yeah. I can see. Yeah, that's Dutch toffee waffles, yeah. Stroop waffles.
It's a stroop waffle. Yeah, I think the sherry casks really help this not, because I think corn whiskey can be really sweet, which I like. Bourbon was one of the first whiskies I really enjoyed, and it probably was because of the sweetness. But I actually think the Oloroso casks here help kind of like bring it back a bit, and
Yeah, definitely.
it's drinkable.
It makes it much drier, doesn't it? That Oloroso gives that dryness. And I do love a good sherry. I must admit, I'm a bit of a sherry head as well.
So are there any more? I mean, not that the work you've done already isn't enough, but are there any more sort of plans to add to the core range beyond the 8 that you've got now?
Well, I'd like to. Yeah, I would like to. But we've just got the first 3 additions to it. Yeah, there are some other big distilling nations. It's about slowly broadening that out, and maybe some other age statements in there. With different Highland or an island. Maybe we could bring. I definitely want a lowland, and we're working on a lowland in the Scotch. I want to add to the Scotch because we've only got the Speyside, the Highland, and the Grain and the Islay at the moment. So there are 5 categories in Scotch whisky. So we should be able to bring in a lowland distillery now with the amount of distilleries, Scottish distilleries in the lowlands. So it'd be good to have a lowland core going forward. I'd absolutely love a Campbelltown.
Yeah.
The chances of that happening are slim to none, I would have thought. But yeah, it was good to have an English and an Irish to bring them in on board. So yeah, absolutely. But yeah, the 2 others, I've got the colours planned for the other 2 Scotch regions, so that will bring them in, and maybe we can add an island one. But I mean, it needs to be a big distillery that's pumping out, that's able to let us have bulk liquid. That's the problem. Speyside's got plenty of distilleries to pick up. There's still half a dozen or more in Speyside alone that are just workhorse distilleries. Those distilleries that are making whiskey just for the blended whiskey market. They don't have their own brand. There's very few distilleries in the lowlands, or certainly islands. Nearly all of the island distilleries are they're big single malts on their own. They're not pumping into blended Scotch whiskies.
Yeah. Well, could be Campbelltown. Watch this space. But also, I've just realised it's nearly 8 o'clock and time is flying.
Yeah.
So I feel like we might have to say goodbye to Boutique-y for a minute. You're going to have to put your other hat on now, Dave.
I'm going to put another hat on.
Get into host mode, because we think we can move on to the Scapa and bring Josh back on the screen.
Let's get Josh onto the screen. That's what we should do. Yes, indeed. Let's do that now.
Hi, Josh.
Evening. How are we doing?
Really good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Dave, that was great. Thank you for that. I really enjoyed listening along. So definitely be keen to source a bottle myself in the future. Always keen to try new things. Like I said to you before, I've been in this role for 9 months. So I do everything in the portfolio. I do the vodka and the gin and stuff as well. So I'm always keen to try outside of our portfolio and get these things on board. So really interesting. Thank you. But I did think it was a nice wee segue, because Scapa, they were about to try, did start life as a workhorse whiskey back in the late 1800s. So I'm sure quite a lot of people that will be on the call will...
Oh.
Did I drop out there?
just for a second.
Cool. Well, maybe familiar with Scapa, but maybe not so much the sort of relaunch that's kind of happened in the last couple of years. Maybe more familiar with the Skirin and Glansa, which were the non-age statements that were out for a while. And then before that, you had the 12-year-old and the 14 and such. Just to confirm, this is not the same whiskey. The old stuff is like gold dust these days, if you can get that. I've never tried them. It was before my time, and starting with Pernod. So, if you can get those stuff, hold on to it. Apparently, the old 16 was absolutely spectacular. But the new stuff is very, very good as well.
The old 16 was probably all I've ever tasted. It was very little Scapa that I've tasted, because it was running like a part-time distillery for a long time, wasn't it?
Yeah, so the story goes that the old 16 was kind of the last run they did before the distillery got mothballed. So they basically just chucked in whatever was left. So there was, 20 plus 30-year-old whiskey going into that 16. That is a story anyway. I don't think anyone actually truly knows the makeup, but it was just launched as the 16 before going sadly mothballed in the late 1990s with limited runs, actually, with our friends at Highland Park, slightly to the north of us. So we are the second most northern Scotch distillery. There obviously is one on Shetland at the moment, but I believe they are just aging just now, so they're not yet producing their own whiskey. So I don't know, they'll claim to be more northern, but in terms of actively producing, I mean, we're still second to Highland Park. So
You can fight for that.
it's not even a title. We've got the silver medal, maybe soon to be bronze. But yeah, our friends at Highland Park actually ran the stills for a little bit in between sort of the late 1990s, and then Pernod bought the distillery post refurb in 2005, and then decided to bring back that age statement. So we've got the 10, the 16, and the 21. Obviously today's starting point is the 10-year-old. If anyone's got it in the nose, Dave, you're speaking obviously of tasting notes being very subjective, as obviously they are. I think this is one of the few whiskies, certainly that I've tried on my own, that I've really went, there's a tasting note, like, you know, without maybe even reading the box or having someone tell it to me. I said, my palate is slowly developing as I do this role, so sometimes nailing out these notes. For me, on the nose, and when you come to taste it, tropical fruits, especially pineapple, does all the work for me. And if you're lucky enough to try the 1621, it's just kind of stews that pineapple. It's a theme right the way through that I get with them all. But really super pineapple on there. Maybe a creme brulee. I actually think the taste notes, Dave, will be quite similar, minus the Oloroso, to your corn whiskey. I think that actually, when I talk about it and when I get feedback on it, it is that sort of similar style. Maybe not Dutch stroopwafel, but creme brulee, Werther's Original, are certainly stuff that I've had before. Banana split I've had in there too. Some people have brought up there's a little bit of citrus just on the back end as well, that kind of comes through, and a little bit of salinity that maybe you would expect, kind of more of a Campbelltown whiskey, but it is completely unpeated, which isn't obviously too common when you think about island whiskies, but no peat whatsoever. Maybe a little bit of salinity. The younger statements, the 10 and 16, aren't fully aged on Orkney just due to space. But the 21-year-old is fully aged on Orkney, so that brings in that saltiness really well.
So what's the cask makeup of this 10-year-old? Is it all
first fill ex-American, mixture of Tennessee and Kentucky, and again that's prevalent through the full range. We don't have any sherry influence at all, so it's all American and all further aged up through that.
So everything goes into, is it finished in first fill ex-bourbon or is full maturation in it?
Full maturation.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Full maturation and 48% non-chill filtered as well. So I think the whole story behind it was obviously Orkney. I'd be interested to see if anyone has visited. Unfortunately, I've not yet got the opportunity to go to the distillery. Apparently, one of the most beautiful in the world. Looking at photos of it, I can fully believe that. I've not yet seen it with my own eyes. Overlooking the Scapa flow, which is again a very historical part of Scotland. Scapa, the word itself comes from the Old Norse for longboat, and then the flow itself is actually one of the world's most premium scuba diving sites, and that's because in post World War One, the German fleet was scuttled there by the German Navy commander. He thought World War II, apologies, there's two boat stories and I get them mixed up. He thought if the Treaty of Versailles didn't get signed, the British might take the German boats and use them against Germany. So he chose to scuttle the fleet and managed to get about 80% of the fleet sunk, which now became sort of an artificial reef, and is now, as I said, one of the world's most premier dive sites. Did a tasting once, and two women actually happened to be avid scuba divers, and they were one of the few people that, we visited the distillery and we've dived and seen the boats and stuff. I was like, oh, pretty amazing. I've only scuba dived in Thailand, so it was slightly warmer there. I don't know if I fancy scuba diving in the North Sea.
Yeah, that's brave.
It's very brave.
Have you been trying this, Jess? This has got a lovely heathery herbalness to it.
Yeah, get heather a lot as well in the tasting notes too. Honey heather comes through quite a bit.
Yeah, it's like the first sort of nose, it's like pure. I think it's really nostalgic for me with like, like apricot yogurt and stuff.
Yeah.
Like those like really tropical fruity yogurts, and you're never quite sure which fruit they were.
Yeah, like an old petit filou.
Yeah,
I used to get them when I was younger. Yeah,
I still do, to be honest.
Yeah, I used to avoid the peach and apricot until I got a bit older. I was more raspberry and strawberry, but I do see it.
Yeah, that's a good shot. That sort of peachy apricot. So that's a good shot.
Certainly those yellow flesh fruits. You get the peach there, a little bit, as I said, mainly pineapple, maybe a bit of mango and stuff as well. Mango ice cream I've had before. Yeah. Which again is a really, really delicious tasting note.
Yeah.
But then the other story, the First World War one was that the British fleet stayed at the distillery as they were situated there, and the distillery actually went on fire. But because they were staying there, they managed to literally human chain it with buckets of water and save the distillery. So that's the one I always get mixed up. Which World War it was.
Two very iconic stories.
Yeah, two good fun stories. I think it's always nice to have a wee story behind it.
I think the sinking of the fleet was the First World War.
Have I got the mix? No, don't tell me I've done it again. I'm
pretty certain.
Sorry, listen, I'm not a history buff. It's one of my weaker subjects at school. But I should know this.
Look out to fact check you.
Please do.
I'm just trying to remember my history lessons, and it's a long time ago. But I remember the Scapa flow and the sinking. I don't remember it personally. I'm not that old.
Yeah. Honestly, you might have done it. Listen, I've just been back from annual leave, so maybe I've got a bit of brain fog from that.
Absolutely. I mean, it's two big stories, isn't it? Really?
I reckon the chat's getting involved. We've got someone we've got Steve Coleman Williams in the chat saying Versailles was World War One. No, maybe mixed up then. My apologies, my sincere apologies.
You were right the first time. Yeah,
I was right the first time. I just got myself in my head. Yeah,
you doubted yourself. Yeah.
Listen, it was that 45.8% whiskey to start as well. Set me off. So
well, it's okay. It's not like this is on the internet forever, so you're fine.
No, yeah. Listen, no one tag my boss if that goes out. Sorry. If we're going Scapa, because with all those, as we said, the fruity flavors, it used to have one of the world's, if not the world's longest fermentation time. The distillery used to only run 4 days. And it was about 160 hours. We now run, it's all still run by hand. It is now 7 days, but it is still a 70-hour fermentation. So that lets those funky flavors really develop. It's an old Lomond still, but they don't have the plates in anymore, so it now just functions as a regular wash still. They did install it as Lomond, but didn't get the right working and took the plates out. So it is just a regular wash still, but it is one of the old Lomond stills that are still running today.
Okay, I didn't know that. So there is an old Lomond still there. That's interesting.
Yeah, no plates in it, so it does
no.
As a standard still, but it was brought in to be a Lomond still, and then for whatever reason, I think it was about 20 years it lasted before they took the plates out, and obviously just choose to focus on doing the malts. Wow. As I said, it was a workhorse for Chivas, for Ballantines, for all your big ones as well. So even before Pernod owned it.
That's so funny that it just, I like the sort of, I don't want to, not stinginess, but just keeping the still and making it into something completely different. I love that. The repurposing of it. Yeah.
So I think it still says somewhere like an old working Lomond still, which technically it is, but it's not working as a Lomond still. I'm sure if anyone has said visits the distillery, they can get the full lowdown on it there.
Yeah. I also wanted to talk to you about, I mean, it was sort of, I guess before your time, but the bottle design, which I feel like it was probably late 2024. There was like a sort of big redesign. But I feel like there's a lot of thought gone into them, and they're really beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it is with that. Everyone kind of seems to have redesigned or looking to redesign the bottle in the last couple of years. Maybe it is with sort of premiumization seems to be the trend going through. Obviously those Skirring and Glance and the old ones are kind of the tall, skinny ones. And I think they just wanted to give, it's meant to be a little punchy, robust whiskey. You know, we're obviously a very small distillery in the grand scheme of things. And maybe recognise that. Obviously, the top of the bottle has those sort of waves there just to sort of go with the flow itself, the bay that we sit in. And then obviously to pay tribute to the name as the logo being the old, meant to be the kind of the old style Viking longboat. I think, if anyone has bought one or seen one, it is visually just a very nice bottle. And like I said, not to shout out a competitor, as it were, on my annual leave, I was in Lewis and Harris and visited the Harris distillery, but they've obviously brought out Hirak. And again, that's just another very probably similar what they're going for in the look of the bottle. It's that sort of maritime influence. And again, I think the two of them sit right beside each other really well. It's also got a long fermentation, as it was. Not to shout them out too much, as it was. It's a delicious whiskey. Scapa's better. But it is, I think, of a similar sort of thought process. Small distilleries, short bottle, 48%, still punchy, really wants to stand out amongst the crowd.
Yeah. I mean, well, we love to talk well behind people's backs. And I think we actually had them on quite recently, although my sense of time was always walked with these tastings. But I think most people have tasted that from a pour and sip set. I never want to say the Hirak because I feel like I butcher it every time. But enough about that one. I wanted to come back to the fact that you only mature in like American oak, first for the American oak, which feels in an age of like a lot of cask experimentation, almost like the unusual thing to do. I mean, obviously there's, it's not super unusual, but
No, I mean, in my role personally, I probably don't have access to that sort of information in terms of why they've done that. In terms of maybe speculating as a larger company, we've got Aberlour, which kind of focuses on the sherry side of things, like almost like a lot of sherry bombs going there. So maybe that is an overall. And again, I know this is getting recorded, so I'd hate to overstep my role. I could only maybe speculate that would be something of a decision behind it. Like, would you want to sort of competing against each other when they're Aberlour is obviously bigger, but they are still on the smaller side compared to some of the bigger Speyside boys. So again, I couldn't speak. I don't know of any future developments if we are going to play with sherry. I would imagine they have tried. Again, potentially they could have played with peating, but it's not something that I'm aware of, unfortunately. And I do apologise if anyone has questions on that side of things.
Well, I guess on the flip side, in a way, it makes it a really good way to sort of follow the core range through the age statements, like the 10, 16, 21.
Certainly.
And because it's all the same cask, you can really see how the whiskey grows.
Yeah, I think it's because, you come to, especially I do a lot of sort of new people to whiskey, like training, and who maybe don't understand that side of things as much. And I do think, obviously, Scapa is a great example of that. If I do Glenlivet, we've got such a mix, and then you bring in French oak, and then you go back, and then stuff. So it can get quite confusing in that way. So I do think if I'm doing a full Scapa portfolio, it's really nice just to see those flavors develop. And as I said, it's almost as if you're stewing those tropical fruits. The 16 kind of just really comes across as kind of that pineapple starting to caramelize. And then the 21s as if you've baked like a pineapple and apple pie.
Everything's just like in the oven for longer.
Yeah, that's and literally it's such an easy way to say it, but it really does come across that way.
We've got some really cool notes coming through. Where did I go? We've got Clive Hampton with cream and pastry on the nose and a big dollop of custard on the palate.
Yeah.
Paul Mazumdar completely getting the pineapple along with guava, banana, and white pepper. And then they're saying they took a punt on the bottle of the 16, but haven't got around to opening it yet. So maybe
taking a punt on a 16-year-old, and it's a good £55, I believe. Obviously with a discount a little bit cheaper, I think that's a decent price for a small distillery whiskey. But taking the punt in the 16, fair play. I think if you love the 10, again, I've tried plenty of whiskies where I prefer a younger age statement to maybe its older version. I do think with Scapa, I'm like, like it just goes up, and it's the exact sort of flavors I love and really, really enjoy. So enjoy that 16 when you do crack it open. The white pepper, obviously a little bit of spiciness there, just a mild hint of it. But the custard, the pastry, again, like I said, it's off like quite a lot of Dave's tasting notes that he had. I think we are minus the Oloroso, following a similar path here.
Mm-hmm. I think everyone's quite aligned on this one. Was the notes we've got Steve Conwell Williams saying it really grows on you. The first sip was good, but the second really does just feel comfortable and, dare I say, moreish than the first.
Well,
Yeah.
Dave stole the. Well, I mean, not that I invented it, but stole the breakfast whiskey. I do think this is a whiskey that you can not, again, being recorded. Not that I'm encouraging this whiskey on your cornflakes, but you know, it is a whiskey that you can sit and imagine. Like, I could have a couple of these, dangerously so, sessionable, some would say.
What would your signature serve be for this?
So we're actually, if anyone listening is Edinburgh based, we have the Edinburgh Bar Show coming up next week, and on Tuesday we are down at Nauticus in Leith, and those boys have put together a Scapa 10 sour. I don't have the full recipe yet of what they're doing, but I think those flavours do lend themselves to a sour. Obviously accentuate that with the lemon juice from the or whatever your foamer agent is. But I think they're tweaking it. I think they're going to be using some local honey and stuff as well. Maybe sort of a penicillin sour riff. But yeah, again, I think this would work kind of the same sort of highball style that Dave mentioned as well. Like I said, those pineapples are going to come through. Even a bit of the lemonade, and let that pineapple do the talking with the lemonade is really, really nice. If you're putting your malt into a cocktail, I know some people still are a bit taboo about that. But I'm seeing, I see it more on menus every single time. Like, I'm through at these premium bars. Malts are going into the menus a lot more.
Wait till they hear I put single malt in my porridge. Jeez.
Only breakfast whiskey, though.
Yeah.
No, that sounds good, and actually quite refreshing to hear someone to say just add some lemonade and enjoy it.
I used to, because before this job, I was in hospitality in a hotel in Glasgow and got a lot of Americans through the door, and they would, that's an absolute stereotype, but they would ask, like, how am I meant to drink my Scotch? And I used to be like, oh, you should just drink it neat. You know, that's the way it's intended. And it probably wasn't until I did this role, until I did more whiskey tastings and people were like, add some water, add some ice. Like, I really did appreciate what it can do, and adding a little drop of water to the Scapa 10 really opens up those tropical flavors really well. But it wasn't until I kind of had a guy and his wife at the bar, and they ordered, I can't remember what it was. I think I went with Classic Laddie as a kind of intro to whiskey to the two of them, and he liked it. She didn't, so she poured a little bit of water into it and probably poured too much, but she tried it and then really liked it and ordered another one, and I was kind of like, oh, well, she wouldn't have ordered that again if I said, no, you can't put water in it, or you shouldn't put water in it, put ice. So I am very much now converted to the best way to enjoy whiskey is the way you like it. Obviously, I can silently judge some people if they're putting, you know, I had someone order a Glendronach 18 old fashioned that cost them 60 quid or whatever it was. I'm like, fair play, it's your money. I'm going to judge you silently. Yeah, like, it's the best ways to enjoy it. As I said, a rising tide lifts all ships. You know, we want this industry to succeed, obviously in tough times as it were at the moment. So, drink it the way you like it.
I think this is soda highball beautifully. I might even try it with tonic, actually.
Ooh, add a bit of.
See, I'm not a tonic man. The quinine doesn't do anything for me, so I'll leave that one to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, that could be nice if I liked tonic.
It's really lovely. It's an eye opener because I haven't had any Scapa for such a long time because it sort of just disappeared off the radar, and you very rarely see it independent bottled unless it was the G&M, the old G&M label, which was fantastic.
Yeah, like I've not been fortunate enough to try any of the old stuff, so I can't compare it. But I've obviously heard very good things, and people do ask me about it. Like, is this the same liquid? And no, it's not meant to be. I actually can't even remember the makeup of the old bottles because before my time, I'm never actually going to work with them. So yeah, but I've heard the feedback from people who have tried the old stuff to this is very good as well. Like, oh, it is a new liquid, but it is, you know, it's exactly what you're talking about. Those pineapple punchy tropical flavors. It's short and sweet. Does the job.
Does the job more than does the job.
Yeah, more than does the job. Yeah.
Well, we'll leave that as your drop the mic moment. But yeah, thank you so much. This is time's flown again. Yeah, this is what delicious whiskey. Yeah, I've not tried Scapa before either, and I will be having more. But yeah, if you are able to hang around until the end, we'll get you back later and have a little give and a chat. So it's goodbye, but not forever.
Thank you. Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Hey, Josh. See you on the other side. Right.
A very good springtime box.
That's really lovely. I mean, it's the first time I've tried Scapa for a long time, and I'm just looking at the bottle, and I'm almost dropped one in my basket then. The bottle is beautiful, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely beautiful. Right, let's bring in Declan Corcoran. And
hello.
Hello.
I'm still here.
Thank you.
Waiting backstage, yeah.
You've had your set though, so hopefully you've been sipping along.
Yeah, exactly. And I've had some history lessons along the way, so yeah. Josh could have me filled with the First and Second Wars, and yeah, so.
Yeah, we had everyone in the chat correcting
a
lot, but I'm not going to read those out.
Well, please feel free, anyone, to correct me on anything I say, please.
Noted. Just a quick, before we get into the whiskey, just a really quick intro about yourself would be great.
Yeah, so I'm in Glasgow just now. I live in Glasgow, and I'm actually from near Deanston originally, so that was my local, and that's how I got into whiskey. I kind of fell in love with whiskey through Deanston, and didn't know anything about it the night before I was going to the interview. This was over 10 years ago. So I was a chef. I've always worked in kind of food and drink, and I just wanted a change. And my mate was like, his brother worked at a distillery and said, there's a tour guide position going. So that's how I done it. And I learned as much as I could. And like, I'm the kind of person, I soak in a lot of information. So yeah, just being at the distillery as a guide and getting to spend all that time there. And as soon as I smell a Deanston 12, it like takes me back, it's, So for me, for whiskey, it's all about the place and all about the people that make it. And when you go there and you see it and you smell it and you taste it, and it's just like incredible. So yeah, that's how I got into whiskey originally. When I do like master classes, I put up an old photo of myself sitting on some casks in the Deanston cask yard. So yeah, my joke is that I hope I've aged well. Probably some of these whiskies were kicking about just newly distilled when I was there. So yeah, and now I'm an account manager in Scotland, so I sell all of our brands. So I'm sure people on the call will know, but we have Tobermory as well and Bunnahabhain. And yeah, I sell them across, and also Black Bottle. I always forget to add in Black Bottle, but Black Bottles are blend as well. So yeah, I sell them all across Scotland, and I'm an ambassador, go around UK and Europe and just yap about whiskey, which is my passion. So yeah.
But someone's got to do it.
Oh yeah, it's hard. I've got a bottle here of it's not as it's when you don't get the impact of the color when you've got the wee bottle, but I just love it's that lovely blue color of the tequila. Yeah, so
if we could get mini, like actual miniature bottles, it would be amazing. But also
sounds expensive,
impossible. But yeah, Deanston. I don't know why I have a really soft spot for Deanston. I don't know. Yeah, it's a funny one. I think I just really love the character of it. And obviously everyone always talks about this sort of signature, like waxy character, which makes it seems like there's nothing Deanston. Let's say there's nothing Deanston can't do, but well, I mean that cask wise.
Yeah. No, the waxiness is something that we always talk about, and it's not just made up, like some people will be like, oh, that's some marketing term or whatever, and it was actually a while back, Andrew Waite, who's in charge of our distilleries, the production side of things, he took us around and he put on a glove and he took the oil out of the faints receiver. So I don't know how geeky people are about whiskey, but we don't clean our faints receiver out. So that's where all the faints, which are the heads and the tails that go back around to be redistilled, they pass through this big box, and yeah, you just open the lid and it's full of this waxy, thick oil. It sounds terrible, but we don't clean it out, and most distilleries do. So yeah, we're one of the only characteristically waxy whiskies in Scotland, and hence why big blends are always want to use Deanston in their blends, which I'll not mention, but I'm sure.
I remember being told the story of when Klein Leash lost its waxiness, and it was.
I've heard that, Dave. Yeah, if someone had said, "Are they not?" What's the story? because I heard that they'd maybe cleaned it out. Is that did they clean it?
That's
now?
what they did. Yeah, that's what they did. And well, why have we lost our waxiness? What happened? What did we do? And yeah, the doctor of copper went in. Yeah, I remember doing a malt advocates course a long time ago. It's sort of a compressed malts advocate course that Diageo run for a whiskey camp that we went on. Crikey, many years ago. Yeah, and that's where they discovered that. I mean, a long time ago, but they discovered that
Interesting.
wax was lost.
Yeah, I always mention Clynelish alongside when I'm talking about the waxiness. So now I can just be like, it's just us. Like, we're the ones that don't do the cleaning.
Yeah, there's a few others. Yeah, there's a few others that make a waxy spirit. You know, some of the Diageo's utility distilleries can make,
of course, yeah, sure.
Make any whiskey. Daluan has a waxiness to it sometimes as well when they substituted Daluan for Clynelish for Daluan.
Yeah, they make some good liquid, yeah.
But I love Deanston is one of my. I've always got a bottle of Deanston 12 in the cabinet.
Oh, that's good to hear. I think Deanston, the line I always go with, I think that Deanston is underrated, and I think it's a bit of a hidden gem. People always tell me, I go to so many whiskey shows, you know, I talk to real whiskey geeks, and they're just like, oh, I've driven past, but I've never been on a tour. I've always wondered what it's like. And yeah, I always, again, talking about breakfast drams, that's what I talk about, because Deanston 12 for me is that. It's like someone, if I'm in a tasting on a barrel top in store, or whenever I'm anywhere, I'm always asking people, do you want a dram or whatever? And they're like, no, I don't really like whiskey. And for me, Deanston is that one that I can just be like, try this. You know, we're going to go on to Tobermory 21 after this, and we've got Letchig as well, made by Tobermory. These things are quite an acquired taste with the peat and different types of sherries and wines and all that. With Deanston, we're predominantly, you know, the core of our character of our spirit is American oak, a lot of ex-bourbon. So yeah, anyway, I'll talk a little bit about the whiskey. We should probably be, I'm sure people are drinking it already. They're not just.
I don't think we need to give people permission to do that.
So yeah, I think this one is it's a big talk. It gets people talking. When I go to a lot of festivals, people are like, oh my gosh, tequila, like that sounds crazy. Like, I'm never going to like that. I hate tequila or whatever. So yeah, this has got a finishing period in tequila casks. So I kind of talk about it being like the north, the highlands of Mexico meet the highlands of Scotland, you know, and it pairs perfectly the tequila from the casks we use from the northern area of tequila region. They're more lighter, floral, fruity, whereas the southern tequilas have got that more herbaceous earthiness. So this really pairs nicely with Deanston spirit. So it's predominantly in the American oak and then finished off in the tequila cask American oak barrels. So, yeah,
tequila breweries use ex-bourbon casks as well. Yeah. So is this Reposado or Añejo casks?
I don't know exactly the details of. I have wondered about that myself, but I think it's a mixture, and I don't know the exact details on it. But of course, yeah, this is. You could say it's all American oak, of course. So, yeah, I think the tequila adds a really nice kind of zestiness, a kind of citrus element running through it. You might see things like pineapple, creme brulee. I think you were talking about desserts on the previous tasting notes. I always like to go with desserts because I've got such a sweet tooth. So, yeah, let's say creme brulee with pineapples on top and like almonds.
That agave herb, I love agave spirits. I must admit, I really adore good agave spirits. And yeah, it's quite faint in here. It's not as pronounced as I would absolutely love it to be.
Yeah.
But I don't want it to take over the malt. It's a nice balance of the malt and the tequila cask coming in.
I think I'd love to give this to someone who hates tequila and not tell them and see what people think. Because I think it gets such a visceral reaction from people that you're looking for the tequila in it, and actually it's more of like a sort of seasoning rather than two spirits like meeting in the middle.
Exactly. Yeah, there's certainly. I've tasted some spirits with more of that agave note running through, but this is a nice balance between it, and it's not like super in your face. But I mean, obviously, it's up at 52.5%, so that's nominated strength as well. So Julianne Fernandez, our master blender, this was one of her creations, and I think the whiskey she creates have just got such a beautiful balance to them.
It is. I didn't notice the 52 on the label there, but yeah, the balance is superb. I mean, that's no. I mean, I'm going to add some water to see what happens. I've got my trusty teaspoon here.
I might just use my finger because I've got no equipment here to get the water out of my water.
Always have off camera.
always have a teaspoon on your desk.
Yeah, I could have a teaspoon in my shirt pocket all the time at these places.
It's much easier to find a teaspoon.
Yeah, well, I like those plastic, the pipettes. Like you get those fancy glass ones, and they're never as good as just the cheap ones. But a whiskey teaspoon would be nice. So yeah, I think it's a lot of our whiskies across the portfolio. At high strength, it just works really well. It's a mixture of obviously choosing the strength that works best for the liquid, but also just it's a testament to the quality of the casks that is used, because we've got whiskies that are above 60% and people drink them, like Bunnahabhain cask strength and so on, like high 50s, and they're like, wow, it's so easy to drink at cask strength, which can be dangerous. I always tell people, you get more for your money when you're buying cask strength, but then you're not really if you can easily drink it at the cask strength.
One or the other.
Yeah, but obviously, again, I'm touching on adding water. I mean, you mentioned it earlier, Dave, but with our whiskies, everything's natural color and everything's non-chill filtered. Such a massive point with whiskey for me is that it's isn't chill filtered. I just believe that with those esters and oils and from the distillation and all those carriers of flavor, when you take them away, you're really losing out on the texture and obviously that waxiness as well. That's a big element of Deanston. So yeah, all the good stuff, high strength, no color, non-chill filtered.
I'd almost be intrigued to try a chill filtered Deanston and just see what happened.
Yeah, that would be to see. Well, what's actually interesting, you can try our organic, because our organic doesn't pass through the faints receiver in the same way, because it's everything is cleaned prior to the it bypasses it, sorry. So the organic spirit is not as waxy, and that's why. Again, Andrew told me about that when we were at the distillery and got a really in-depth tour. So that's the reason. You can try some of the organic Deanston. There was younger ones out previously. The one now is like, it's up, retail price was 180. It's a 20 or 21 year old, one of the oldest organics on the market. So
wow.
Or it's the oldest organic, but someone else made it previous to 2000. I don't know. Anyway, I didn't really talk about the distillery. I should have spoke more about the place, but Deanston for me, it's a really cool distillery. It's we can do experimental stuff like this. We also just released an orange wine cask 17-year-old. So if you are interested in something that's a bit different, that's a Vinho de Naranja. It's not actually a skin contact orange wine. It's wine that has been macerated with orange peel. So yeah, maybe that's one for you to try. It's a couple of years older, high strength again. But yeah, that's an interesting one. So we get to do these kind of experimental cool things with Deanston. But the place itself, we've always kind of been, in my mind, ahead of the curve, because when it was a cotton mill, the building from 1785, that was designed by Richard Arkwright, who was a pioneer of the Industrial Revolution. So it was a cotton mill that was then the perfect place to make whiskey. So in 1965, it was transformed into the distillery that we have now. So obviously, because we had the facility to make power back when it was a cotton mill, we had 4 water wheels. We now have the same lathe from the River Teith that runs through. It's near Doon. If anyone is a fan of Monty Python and Outlander and Game of Thrones, they're all filmed around there. I've actually been on the set of Outlander, which was filmed in our warehouse at one point. But yeah, a very historic region. But so the lathe now brings water in for our turbine house. We make all our own power completely. We sell back 70% or so to the grid. The water, the River Teith that's running alongside, it's I believe it's the fastest flowing river in Scotland. Here, there's someone can correct me on that. Is it the fastest flowing river in Scotland?
I thought it was the Spey, but
maybe it's the second fastest.
Yeah, I thought it was the Spey. That's because that's got the sharpest descent, hasn't it?
Maybe there we go. Yeah. Well, I'll just throw in a little fact there for people.
It's a beautiful setting alongside the river.
Yeah.
This sort of modern distillery along the modern distillery building alongside the old mill building. You don't use all of the floors, do you? The top floors from what
We
I
did
remember.
some Halloween tours back in the day. That was, there's some people will tell you some stories. They've seen different things at the distillery in the night and so on. But the floors there where the looms would run, and there's all the floorboards have grooves where they've just eroded the wood down with walking back and forth, and it's an absolutely incredible place. But that main building of the distillery, if you're googling that or looking at photos, that main building, like Dave says, is mostly empty floors. It's actually the bottom floor that's the still house.
Yeah.
And the weaving shed, which is a vaulted ceiling, it's really thick concrete, and that was to deaden the noise and the machinery for the outside. And we had some grass on top that had sheep there, and everything to deaden the noise and to prevent the noise from the machinery. But now it's such an amazing place to mature whiskey because it remains at this constant temperature all year round. It doesn't really fluctuate. And then the vaulted ceilings were the humidity would rise and it would run off onto the pillars. Sounds a bit disgusting, but that's how the ceilings were that way. Again, if you're looking up the weaving shed at Deanston, you'll see what I'm talking about. But it's a very unique place, and it's a place that wasn't meant to make whiskey, but it was the perfect place. And another thing is, on the top of the bottle, you'll not have it with you, but on the top of the bottle here, you'll see, if you have one of the bottles in your house, this is the Deanston coin. So the people of the factory workers would be paid in Deanston money, and it was actually the village of Deanston was completely built for the purpose of the cotton mill. So that's an imprint of the coin, and that's what they had to spend in the village. So that's just a little nod to the history there. So really fascinating place. And if you ever are in Scotland, it's really close to the Central Belt. It is a Highland malt. Obviously, the Highland boundaries in terms of whiskey wise it is a Highland malt, but we're like a little bit north of Glengoyne. So, and in terms of geographically, people would say it's not in the Highlands though, but it's pretty close to the Highlands. I would say north of Callander.
The Highland line, yeah.
Yeah, you're kind of north of Callander. You're into the Highlands anyway. So properly nice setting, but also easy to get to. We've got a coffee bothy on site, the coffee bothy, which has lovely lunches and Empire biscuits, and
perfect day out.
Yeah.
How long have this been rested in tequila casks?
It's 2 years.
2 years.
2 years finish, yeah. So like you're saying about the subtlety of it, it's quite surprising being a decently lengthy finish.
We've also got someone asking that they're getting some light smoke, like in the flavors. Is it tequila or mezcal?
It is tequila. I'm not picking up on any smoke in that sense, but maybe you're getting a bit of the char from the barrel. I don't know, but it is definitely tequila. There's no presence of peat in the spirit either. Obviously, we're completely unpeated. We're only making the one spirit at Deanston, so I guess some people pick up nuances with like kind of characteristics of smoke from some elements, but I'm not sure where it'll be from. But I don't like to go too much into tasting notes, because everyone tastes different, and there's so many ways you can describe the same kind of thing. So I would love to hear what you are picking up from it.
Some people pick up smoke from cask char.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was thinking
pick up cask char pretty quickly and thinking, "Oh, is that I get peated there?" Yeah. And no, it's cask.
Okay, I get you. Yeah, I do sometimes think that, but I had a guy in there was a guy I went to Kendal Whiskey Festival, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't like Tobermory, it's smoky." And I said, "No, it's not smoky. Lechigs are smoky one." He's like, "I have a really good palate. I can taste smoke, even if it's a very, very small amount and all this." And I was like, "All right." He was like Tobermory 21. I gave him Tobermory 21. So maybe some people can pick up real nuances with it.
They should look into getting a new job.
Yeah,
they should change
it. Blender.
Become a nose.
Yeah.
No. I don't need any more jobs.
Not another hat.
But we have obviously Julianne, the master blender, and like I'm a big advocate for diversity in whiskey and women in whiskey, and there's actually more super tasters in the world who are women. So more women need to be getting into distilling and blending for sure.
That's lovely.
So hope everyone's loving it. Is there any questions coming through?
Those were the two questions we had. We've got just lots of nice comments. We've got some good tasting notes coming through. Someone saying, Real Boingo saying, I haven't had tequila in decades. Does this count? Paul Mazandar, more tropical fruit, but this time more toasted bananas, fritters perhaps.
Ooh.
We've got a left field one here from Steve Coleman Williams saying peanuts and the smell of an opened box of shredded wheat. But maybe there's just too much breakfast talk this evening. Is that what you 4 peanuts and an opened box of shredded wheat?
Sounds good. I mean, that's kind of like your honey. Is it honey nut shredded wheat essentially? I guess.
I think you can get can you get plain shredded wheat? Because there was like
of course, yeah.
Got one, but a plain one now feels like.
But then is it a bite-sized shredded wheat or is it a large?
Oh God, testing my breakfast.
And I don't know where to stop with shredded wheat because I'm a big cereal fan, and I don't know whether to go for 3 Weetabix or 6 or 4 shredded wheat. So it depends on the size. You got to consider that, but yeah.
Always
maybe honey nut shredded wheat with hot milk. I love a hot milk on a shredded wheat. I love cereal. Yeah. Big breakfast theme on this tasting today.
Yeah, should we have a cereal tasting next time? We'll get you back on.
I would log that. Oh my gosh, we should pair cereal with whiskey. That would be incredible.
I think that would be great.
Maybe
I love asking for. I'm big on like unusual food pairings and whiskey. Like I think I talked about this last time. Like I always, I mean, not that it's that unusual, but I always nick Sarah Burgess's Kaolila and Maltesers. And I'm like, have you tried this? But yeah, I did a good one. I did a good one. I did a tasty one where we, it was Boutique-y, really old Cameron Brig with custard tarts. That was so nice. So any food recommendations for this, given your background as a chef?
Oh, with this, I was going to give something like a cereal recommendation or like a snack.
Wait, just like on its own? Not with a whiskey?
Let me think. Well, I would say
recommendations welcome too.
Of course, to make a cocktail, I would say we make tequila whiskey margaritas with this. You could make a frozen Deanston tequila margarita. I would say that would be a good one to do. Food pairings. I don't know. What are you thinking? I've not considered what the food pairing could be here. I'm thinking too much cereal right now.
I don't know if the cucumber would be more of a garnish though.
I'm thinking cheese, but then I'm always often thinking about cheese and whiskey. Something like a manchego alongside this.
Yeah, I think let's go with something left field like
cheese and whiskey
like Vietnamese rainbow rolls.
Something spicy could go well.
Something spicy and kind of zesty, and I'm thinking kind of like Eastern Asian, kind of that kind of vibe.
Yeah, like a summer roll.
Summer roll, that's what
with
I was
like the really punchy sauce that you get that looks like
peanut sauce.
Yeah, naan or something.
Yeah, there we go. That's what I'm going with. Summer roll,
that's good. I like that. I'm going to write that down and add it to my list.
Yeah, go to my marketing team. Yeah, then we get these kind of ideas.
Well, that seems like a good place to leave this particular whiskey. But yeah, I think this is really fun, and yeah, good that I think it's cool that everyone's now got to try a tequila cask whiskey, because it's not something people are probably going to shell out on a bottle of.
I think you'll see on the card it's from 20. I think they put 2019. There was the SWA didn't allow tequila casks pre recent years, so you'll see more of that card.
Why do you think they allowed them? Is that because there was an ancient history of agave growing in the Highlands of Scotland once upon a time?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know their history of why and when, but yeah, I think we'll see more and more casks being allowed to be used probably. But yeah, I mean, you can do like I did a tasting recently with it's Agitator whiskey from Sweden, and they can use like chestnut casks and maple syrup casks, and I think the SWA need to let their hair down a wee bit. I think
chestnut works. I mean, I have tasted some other whiskies in different casks, and there's a reason why we use oak for sure. That's all I'm going to say. There's a definite. I mean, chestnut works, but there's a reason why we use oak. Because pear and apple didn't to me. Yeah.
It's good to also protect obviously the tradition of Scotch, but maybe there's some more ways we can experiment and appeal to new people.
Nice. Well, leading the way with all the cask finishes at Deanston. But yeah, first of all, thank you for talking all things Deanston with us. But we're gonna rinse you while you're here, and
we're going on to
switch into Tobermory mode now, if that's all right.
Yes, I will just pour the last. I'm not wasting any. I'm pouring a wee bit back here.
Oh yeah.
Tobermory. Yeah, I'll get into my Tobermory character now.
I was thinking it's kind of cool that we've had 2 island whiskies in this set and no peat. Really.
Yeah.
Flipping the.
Yeah. Usually, I would finish any tastings I do. I finish on peat. So, also Tobermory 21 is a great one to finish on too. I have thought the whiskies are brilliant, by the way. Thanks for having me, and also it was really. You've got a wealth of knowledge between you all about the drams, so yeah, it's really interesting. But yeah, we're moving on to the 21 if everyone's keen to have an extra dram.
Yeah, so obviously, usually we only, to everyone, watching all of our pour and sippers, obviously we usually only sort of taste 3 drams and then go over the last 2 fairly quickly. But given we've got a guest here that knows all things about our quick dram, we're going to have a very quick taste of our Tobermory 21-year-old before talking about the Glen Moray. So no pressure to drink a 4th or 5th dram. You're welcome to if you like. But yeah, save them for later if you wish.
Yeah, so this is the Tobermory 21. Sorry, it's not really showing up on the screen, but it's a beautiful colour. Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, all of our brands, the same sort of mindset runs throughout. Nothing is coloured, nothing is chill filtered. This one is matured. It's finished in Oloroso casks for 4 years, so that nice long finish gives it that deep colour. The tasting notes on this one kind of come up as I like to call it like a cherry bakewell tart kind of thing going on. Tobermory distillery itself is much older than Deanston. It was from 1798, so around the same time as the mill at Deanston was being used for cotton. But Tobermory, it's a tiny wee distillery on the Isle of Mull. If anyone's familiar with the Western Isles, this is north of Islay. So Tobermory is a great distillery, especially if you like peat as well, because we make lechig there. So we actually used to make about the same spirit for lechig and Tobermory, but now we make much more lechig. We make much more lechig spirit, which is our peated spirit, and it's a nice change if you're a peat fan from the likes of Islay and so on. It's got a different kind of smoke to it. But anyway, I'll talk more.
Is that a recent change? Because it always used to be about 50-50, didn't it? Is that since you've been refurbished?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, since 2017 and or so on, it was we've more and more been producing the higher amount of lechig spirit, so it's about 70% lechig now.
Wow.
Lechig works nicely at younger ages and with different finishes. Tobermory, we if people might be familiar with the Tobermory 10. I don't think I have a bottle. It's an old green glass bottle, which I quite liked. It was quite fiery, a bit hot, but I like the character of it. But it did have some issues at this distillery, which were Brendan McCarran, who's our previous master distiller, who's a friend of mine. He made some changes, and we brought out the 12-year-old Tobermory, and yeah, that's all American bourbon, and it's that's our core range. That's our signature core dram now. And then you've got a bit of a gap because we don't really have anything in between that and the 21, other than some limited editions and distillery editions and so on. But in our core range, it kind of jumps from 12 to 21. So at some point we might fill that gap. But right now, Tobermory works really nicely at these higher ages. The 21 is our core range, but we do also have the Hebridean series, which was a previous Tobermory 15-year-old core release that was discontinued, and then the remaining stock was put into Oloroso barrels. And then for I think it was what's the 15 plus was it 5, 6, 7, 8 years finish in Oloroso. We started with a 23-year-old. So if you've seen any of those high-aged Tobermorys from 23 to 27, they're all from the same parcel of Oloroso casks that have been left for an extra year each time. So that's quite an interesting series, and I think it really shows the character that an extra year can make being in the Oloroso casks. So yeah, Tobermory, I would say that the core characteristic of it as a spirit is it's like apple slices dipped in olive oil. So you've got that real nice olive oil, fresh orchard fruits kind of thing going on. This finish with the Oloroso casks, it adds that real nice buttery, kind of marzipan-y cherry thing going on. So I think it's a real nice, classy liquid. This is 46.3%, so that's the minimum we bottle at. If you know the rest of our core range, you'll see that 46.3 is just our number that we've been for many years. And obviously, when you're non-chill filtered, you have to bottle above 46%. So yeah, that's our signature bottling strength, and that's what this is at. And yeah, I've not had a wee try just now. So obviously, going from the Deanston onto this, it's such a change in character. You get that real Oloroso character coming through.
Yeah, that longer finish is much of the fruitiness comes out of here, doesn't it?
Yeah, I get kind of
at least 4 years finish, yeah.
Yes, yeah, 4. So it's similar in terms of like we've got the 18 Leipzig, which is finished in Oloroso. This is like the 21 Tobermory that's finished in Oloroso, so part of the core range for the unpeated spirit. But yeah, I'm getting that real kind of leatheriness, that kind of woody, dark wood kind of thing coming through. So yeah, it's quite a different spirit to Deanston.
Yeah, quite the vibe switch.
Yeah. But I think this is kind of a really cozy kind of autumn, wintry kind of dram. And yeah, it's a great release from the core range that's maybe at sometimes overlooked. But as I don't know exactly the price of this one on your website, I'm maybe just a really quick.
This one for our members is £140.
Wow, that's a really good price. So you know the retail price of this one is up above 175 or so. So you know, there's not. I don't think you can. One thing with our brands that I'm proud to say is that you get an amazing value for the money. You know, we're not. There was Josh had mentioned about premiumization, and a lot of brands do follow that route, and they put their prices up quite high. And you know, to get a 21-year-old at £140 is extremely rare. And that goes for other whiskies in our range as well. You know, there's a couple of 18-year-olds in our core range from the different distilleries, like Deanston, for example, that's under 95 or £100. So, yeah, amazing value for money you get with our liquid, and yeah, that's definitely one I'd be buying if I had £140 to spend tonight.
Or if you didn't work for the distillery.
Yeah, exactly.
But no,
I do love. I genuinely love the brand so much, you know, and it makes my job much easier when I love the things I'm selling.
Oh, definitely. Oh no, sorry, that was no shade saying that you're.
No, I was going to say though, just on that point, like I work for the brands. I work for this company because of the brands. You know, it's just like it's such a with Deanston. It's close to my heart. It's like a sort of very personal thing, and then that sort of same kind of idea with the brand and the way that it's moving is similar across all of the portfolio. So yeah, you've kind of got with all of our whiskies, you've got such a varied range, and there's kind of something for everyone in our whole portfolio, which is really amazing to go to shows and just ask someone, you know, what is it you like? And they say, I love peaty whiskey. And I'm like, boom, Leipzig. Or they're like, no, I like something that's kind of like easy, kind of honey vanilla, you know, and then I'm going like Deanston. So yeah, so if someone comes to me and they're saying they like that kind of maybe like a Speyside, or they like the kind of character of a Isla, but they don't really love the kind of smokiness from Isla, then I'm pointing them to something like a Tobermory, because you're getting that nice oiliness. But yeah,
amazing. Yeah, they're great whiskies, and they all have great stories as well.
Yeah,
which is good because it gives you lots to talk about.
Yeah, I'm just seeing that I've got like rosy cheeks drinking this here.
It was probably that punchy agave cask.
Yeah, and I've not had my dinner. I've got I made a dal. I don't think the dal would. Maybe the dal would go well with this Indian food. I don't know.
With the 21.
Maybe that's what I'm gonna. Yeah, maybe I should just do a little bit extra and go have my dal after this.
So that's perfect breakfast.
Well, given that dinner's on the way, and also I'm very conscious of time. Yeah, I thank you so much for doing a double bill for us.
No problem. I hope I've not chatted too long. I had no idea at the time, so.
No, it's fine. That's my job. And I'm aware that I think have Josh waiting backstage. So I'll really quickly shout out the Glen Moray before we get everyone back, sort of for a little roundup at the end. So yeah, as you can probably tell, there's a bit of a fruity theme throughout this month. So we've got this Glen Moray, which Glen Moray also does a lot of cask experimentation, and also has a tequila cask finished whiskey. So that'd be fun to compare and contrast. But today we have Forbidden Fruit, which is finished in Calvados casks. And I believe this Calvados is a spirit from Normandy distilled from apples and pears. And I believe this Calvados is specifically just apples, so extra appley.
Right.
And I was reading about the people in Normandy who just live the life and just eat like ridiculous things and drink delicious things. And Calvados and coffee is like a common pairing in Normandy. So you have a little shot of Calvados in your coffee. So I kind of thought this would be fun in an espresso martini, but I also don't know if I don't know if it would, but I'm going to try it.
Right. Yeah, Calvados and coffee. I mean, I like a bourbon and coffee together. That works really well to me. Yeah, I was reading up about what Glen Moray did, because they're the ones who really sort of upset the apple cart back in 2017-18, didn't they? Did the cider cask, which wasn't allowed yet. The tequila cask. Anyway, yeah. I think they started the ones with their experimental Curiosity range, I think it was called back then. They started there, which sort of morphed into the more premium Warehouse 1 series, which is again morphed recently into their sort of Experience. And this is the third release from their Experience, so that's a lower ABV. But yeah, they do some interesting cask finishes. I must admit, the Phoenix Rising, I think that was the first one, wasn't it? And then they've done the Twisted Vine, which was that was cognac cask, wasn't it? Twisted Vine, I think. And this is the third one, Forbidden Fruit.
Yeah, it's quite. I don't know if you've had. We did this in a slightly wrong order. So if you are sipping the drams, this is quite a wild one to have after a 21-year-old Tobermory.
Absolutely.
So maybe save this one for sort of a sunny afternoon, which I think would be lovely. Because this is, as it suggests, really, really fruity, really appley, really orchard forward, and quite refreshing. Maybe it's just the comparison with the 21-year-old, but that's how I find it.
Shall I bring Josh back in because he's sitting there?
Yes, let's get everyone together. So yes, that's all our drams. That was a quick shout out for our Glen Moray. And now we've got the gang back together. Thank you for waiting, Josh.
No, all good. I just really love, Declan, you went quite passionate at the end about loving the brands and the history of Deanston. But I do think the sentence you said with the most passion throughout was, I just love cereal. It was the most honest.
Yeah, I'm
really
in the wrong industry. I should be in the cereal industry. Yeah.
Listen, before we talk amongst ourselves for a sec, I'm going to put a question out to everyone watching live. Many of you will know what's coming, but yeah, everyone, it's time to pick your favorite dram from this evening. I think someone's got a database or a poll going on, so we usually get a pretty accurate score. So gonna promise on behalf of all of our guests that no one will be offended, so get your votes in. And something that I think is quite nice to ask you guys, I think you're all probably quite good at doing this anyway, but what is a spirit or a whiskey that you've tried, it doesn't have to be whiskey, outside your own portfolio recently that you really loved?
I'll go, because as I said, it's quite relatively new, 9 months. So I was lucky enough to go to the whiskey show in London in October last year. But I went up to the sort of Scandinavian section just to try some weird and wonderful things. Now, I'll preface this. I wouldn't say I loved it. It was interesting. I tried an Icelandic whiskey that was peated with sheep dung.
Okay.
And they didn't hide it. It said in the bottle. Because in Iceland, it's similar to Wales, there's more sheep than people. And they use the sort of, if anyone is eating their dinner about to go for a dal, apologies. They use the dried sheep dung as fuel to heat their homes and stuff. So they were looking at importing Scottish peat, and someone was like, why don't we try this? It's weird and wonderful. I mean, it tasted as like a pretty, I have to say, average grade whiskey. It was nothing special. I don't know what I expected to taste, but that was a fun one. And also, I think a Norwegian distillery. And apologies if there's anyone on the call that's vegan or vegetarian. They designed a whiskey for the hunters that are up in the north, like the Arctic Circle, hunting elk and caribou and whatever the native deer is up there. And they actually took a deer carcass and put it in the still, so that the vapor was going through the distillate was going through this deer cavity and heart. And I mean, for him to say like it might be placebo effect, it did taste like had that metallic taste, like that sort of that irony that you would get off blood, and it wasn't unpleasant. It was actually quite like an Amaro, or like obviously like a really herbal Coca-Cola. You know, when you get these ones that aren't Coca-Cola, it's some independent making a Coke, but it's quite much more herbaceousness to it. That was the flavors I was getting. So that's my weird and wonderful ones. I said they were fine, but it's the first two that came to mind.
Yeah, you really broadened your horizons that day. That is crazy.
Yeah, I'm gonna top that with my favorite. Not at all. No, I don't have anything as interesting as that. But I loved I love Ardnamurchan. So I think one of my standout drams from was the Heritage Barley, and Aaron did a Heritage Barley. Don't know what it is about Heritage Barley. I maybe just like Heritage Barley. But that's
absolutely. Heritage barley is so tasty. Some of those older strains that are being distilled by certain distilleries is completely different to that modern sweet barleys. Absolutely.
What kind of, like, I don't know the ins and outs. Is it different? Obviously we use Concerto now. Is it like a beer? Is it a berry or beer? How do you pronounce it?
No, if I've got a spreadsheet, we should talk. I've got a spreadsheet on barley varieties, how it's evolved really quickly. And when you look at barley strains and how quickly it's evolving at the moment in whiskey, certainly within the UK, and then you turn around and look at corn for bourbon, that's remained fairly stable throughout. And so there's big differences between flavor profiles of older bourbons from the 30s and 40 post-prohibition, pre-prohibition bourbon hasn't really changed much compared to Scotch whiskey from the 70s and the 60s and the 50s, which is changing rapidly. We were certain strains of barley for years and years and years, and then it's rapidly changing all the time now. And when you taste the malt of modern Laureate to just a few years ago, and it's like savory and sweet. Talking about cereals that you'd love, it's really cheap.
Well, that's a great answer then, because that's probably why I like it, because it's got some different character to it, really sweetness. But I love Ardnamurchan whiskey, so I'll probably choose that. I mean, I grew up going to Ardnamurchan. It's on the west coast of Scotland. Beautiful turquoise water and white sandy beaches.
I think I've got Ardnamurchan cask samples on my desk, actually.
You're a good guy to know. There's information and books and samples.
There's a boutique-y hint for you. I'm going to go, surprise, Jess, I'm going to go for a rye. You know how much I love rye whiskey. I tasted a rye whiskey at the London Whiskey Show a couple of weeks ago. A Bardstown heritage rye that had been finished in a toasted cherry staved cask, so alternate toasted cherry wood stave in a cask. So it's just a finish in it, and that blew me away. That really did blow me away, and I've got a bottle of that in my basket as well at the moment. So it's a rye whiskey, an American rye whiskey that's been finished in a cask with alternating toasted cherry wood.
What?
Which was really fascinating. Off-brand, completely off-brand.
That's the point. That's good. All great answers.
What's yours, Jess?
Well, I don't have a portfolio.
You can say anything.
So I can go off-brand whenever. It's not particularly new, but I think what you were saying about like whiskey and place being so closely tied together. I was on Skye last year and got the ferry over to Raasay and had loads of whiskey there, and it was just phenomenal, and loads that that you couldn't really try anywhere else, which is not even the exclusivity of it, but it's just like the experimentation where they're not going to sell it off the island. It's just a good time. So yeah, shout out to Rassie.
Yeah. Did you go to Callum's Road?
Sorry?
Did you go to Callum's Road? No?
No, what's that?
Oh, it's a guy, Callum, that built a road on Rassie because the council wouldn't build it, so he built it himself. It's quite an interesting story.
That's so cool.
I can't talk too much about it in case I get the facts wrong, though. So.
just go with it. I was getting facts wrong all night, so
yeah, check out Callum's Road on Rassie. It's a cool story.
Back.
Yeah,
it was a fleeting visit.
There you go. You need to go back. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay, well, the votes are in for everyone's favourites, and everyone's actually it's pretty split. We've got Steve Williams between the Tobermory and the Corn. He's also saying I love Flocky, so you've got another fan there. Vince the Vet, Tobermory, drawing with Dalmore 17, which we didn't have, but that's good to know.
That was last month.
Oh, so it was. Okay, we're throwing it back.
Was last month's box.
That's okay. Chris Leno, really like the North Scapa if I had to choose. David Wilcock, Canadian Corn for me. First time I've tasted Canadian whiskey. One ordered to try with my shredded wheat. David Tull, the Scapa and Canadian Corn whiskey are brilliant, but going with the Tobermory is the best. Clive Hampton, Scapa edges it. Rail Boingo, Deanston for me tonight. I've got to make whiskey porridge. Pexman, I've ordered the Canadian Corn. Do you know what? Yeah, everyone's loving it. So
nice.
To conclude, inconclusive as usual, but I like to see it the votes happen in real time. Yeah, this has been so fun. Thank you both. Well, all three of you. I forgot Dave is also our third guest. Yeah, thank you all so much for sharing truly a boundless amount of knowledge and some incorrect facts. It's been great.
I'll scrub up for next time.
Yeah. And you've outdone us with a hat, Dave. I was going to wear a sombrero, but
I've got some Mexican hats actually. Yeah. Yeah.
I
love that.
Amazing. Well, I think with Dave's hat change, that's good night. So yeah, cheers everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Thanks to everyone else for joining online. And we'll see you next month.
Hey, lovely to meet you both. Thanks again for hanging out all evening.
Thanks for having us. Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
Thanks.